Welcome, trainers, to the PokeSphere. We're your destination for in-depth Pokemon news, community discussions, and editorial content. We're passionate about this franchise, and we're here to share our insights and connect with fellow fans. Let's talk Pokemon. So, in a breaking news type of event, we were informed by Nintendo of some massive changes into the corporate structure. And so, I'm going to kick it over to my co-hosts today and get their insights about what they think about this transition for Doug Bowser, which takes place the first of the new year. And joining us today is special guest Unseely King.
What's up? Very interested in this topic.
Starting off with the more well-known COO of Nintendo of America, Doug Bowser, stepping down at the end of December after a 6-year term. Doug Bowser took over for Reggie Fils-Aimé, who was a longtime favored among Nintendo fans because he was always larger than life. He'd done a whole bunch of things, especially with Iwata-san. It was them that really pushed Nintendo into the forefront back in the early aughts. And so with the stepping down of Doug Bowser, we get the stepping up of Nintendo executive Devon Pritchard. A lot of people think that she just kind of came out of the blue, but apparently she's been with the company for several years now. As a matter of fact, I believe she's been with Nintendo since 2006. According to Wikipedia, she has been the Executive Vice President of Revenue, Marketing, and Consumer Experience over at Nintendo of America. And she will be the 5th person to hold the title of COO for Nintendo of America. And she has had special contributions to certain Nintendo games like Pokémon Legends Arceus, Kirby and the Forgotten Lands, as well as Nintendo Switch Sports. Had her time in Nintendo. She's had her hands in a couple of games, one of which we hold dear in our hearts as Nintendo Pokémon Legends Arceus. I mean, what were your reactions when you heard about Doug Bowser stepping down all of a sudden and this new person of Devon Pritchard taking over?
It's a lot of speculation without me knowing backgrounds of like these people on a little bit more in-depth level, and definitely one that I'm not trying to really know these people so remotely.
So what I find interesting is, and I think you said it earlier, she joined Nintendo back in 2006, and when she came into Nintendo, she was head of their legal department. Like, she was legitimately legal and whatever that encompasses as far as a company for Nintendo. But in 2021, she then took over as Executive Vice President of Sales, Marketing, and Communications. So is she the reason that we're seeing, the digital sales the way we are, the marketing, the advertising? Because if that's the case, I find it very strange that she would become COO. I was hesitantly optimistic, but now after seeing like what she's been in charge of for the past 4 years, I am becoming hesitantly cautious. Because a little insight for me, and I know Draco, you and I have talked about this, there are a lot of job openings in the Nintendo sales and marketing department, quite a lot. So I find it very intriguing that you have a lot of openings in a department that she formerly ran, and now she is taking over all of operations for Nintendo of America. On a business side, there's some worry there, at least for me. I mean, but she hasn't been in the public eye enough for us to really understand where she's coming from. She's not, she's not a Doug Bowser. She's not a Reggie. She's not out there, and she's not, presenting herself in any sort of way for us to judge.
A woman taking over as COO of Nintendo? What? No, I'm just kidding. But I don't know much about the lady herself. I did hear about the whole thing, she was part of the legal department at first, and then she moved over to the marketing side. Truth be told, also I only heard about her watching or listening to the Kit and Krista podcast stuff. I don't know if they're being truthful about her being a quote unquote good person and worker or whatever But like, I don't know. If she really has been like part of marketing for like the past 4 years or so, and this is what we're getting, I have no idea what's going on. I have heard, at least using Kit and Krista as like references, that like the marketing side is kind of killer though, like in terms of like what they go through like physically and like, you know, setting stuff up and everything, and it does sound like a big hassle. But I don't know. Here's to hoping for good stuff.
The fact that she's been in the company since 2006, and she's put in her due diligence into the company. She's also following the trend of what Reggie Fils-Aimé and Doug Bowser both did, because I believe they both were in the marketing department as well. It's gonna boil down to how she perceives the direction of the company should go. And on top of that, it's going to be perceived as what corporate is going to tell her she's allowed to do, which is what's going to kind of push this conversation into the next part. But I, for one, I'm going to be hopeful that with Pritchard taking over NOA, that we will see some course corrections on some things that we as a community have been hypercritical of Nintendo as of lately. Mind you, obviously she cannot dictate whether or not the things such as the lawsuit continues, but she will also be sitting on the board of directors for Nintendo, and so she will have a voice, and hopefully she has been hearing our criticisms as a community, and will voice those criticisms to the board, and hopefully we'll see some course corrections on some things that Nintendo has really been doing that has been off-putting a lot of their consumer base. But with that said, we are going to move to the fact that they also announced in the same announcement that Satoru Shibata will become the new CEO of Nintendo of America. Now, a little history of Mr. Shibata is that I believe he has been with the company since 1985, so he's been in there for quite some time. He's been the managing director of Nintendo of Australia, president of Nintendo of Europe, executive officer at Nintendo, outside director of the Pokemon Company to this date from 2018, senior executive officer, as well as general manager of marketing division and licensing division. And so he has a very long tenure. He's been a part of Nintendo even back in the days of Iwata, which to me, I will be honest and upfront, is probably one of the better days of Nintendo. And I'm hoping that him as CEO will be bringing in some badly needed view on how to treat their customers. But that aside, he's just to show that some of the things that he's also been a part of, he's appeared in several presentations with the Nintendo DS event in Paris, as well as the Wii event in Europe. He's also promoted several games through interactions with celebrities, such as playing Wii Sports tennis with Tim Henman and Greg Rednutsky. I apologize for butchering the name. He's also singing Call Me Maybe for Carly Rae Jepsen, and he gained attention for other things that he's done, including a fashion show for the New Style Boutique and cosplaying as Phoenix Wright. You know, in this case, I think we've got some old blood coming in. We've got some potential of pulling Nintendo back to where they should be, in all honesty. But again, it always comes down to the board of directors and how they interpret what stockholders want. So I'm kind of hoping that more stockholders like myself voice the opinion of, hey, you know, we need to fix some things. But that's just my personal take on this.
So one thing I like about Shibata is that when he started at Nintendo, you notice, like, if you look up his information, there's no title at the 1985 from 1985 to 1999. You notice there's no title listed there, which means he started at an entry-level position and worked his way up to where he is now. But the major thing that I love about Shibata is he is very much the type of CEO or, you know, businessman or vice president that actually likes to interact with the fans that consume his product. If you enjoy being able to interact with your fans, that means you are more willing to listen to your fans. And somebody that is willing to listen to his fans is more likely to make changes for his fans. So I tend to hope that we are going back to the times of Iwata. But again, as you said, it is very, very dependent on shareholders and board of directors and, unfortunately, money. I want to see where he goes with how he handles certain things, because I think he is now he's probably allowed to do more than he wanted to necessarily. And him coming from the Iwata times, especially being a, from what I can only understand as a entry level, tech or, marketer or sales, I think he has a more close to the consumer view than a lot of the other executives that you're going to find out there.
I can only hope that this new change of stuff will bring good changes.
Honestly, everything that I've seen from Shibata really emulates or reflects Iwata's philosophies. There was a lot of several of those promotions in the Nintendo Directs where they kind of interacted together, starting in 2012, and like Unseely mentioned, it really seems like he has that old school, this is meant to be fun, this is something to be enjoyed by the fans. Yeah, we're a business, but at the very end of the day, we're not going to be a successful business if nobody enjoys the entertainment we provide. And that's really what kept me at least keeping one foot in Nintendo, even if it was meaning one foot in the grave. As we saw the console wars, as these options opened up to us, as my own personal availability to move into the PC master race became more eminent, not that I have yet. It's just the family vibe, the coziness, even when it is more intense gaming from Nintendo, it's for the love of the game, is what Nintendo always seemed to represent. And the secondary thing was the innovation, which is something that's also very important and awesome to me. What I've seen in the past year from Nintendo looks like Xbox. It looks like, hey, we saw a trend and we're following it to make more money, and we're going to milk it for as much money as we can. And they could have done it way worse, and that's one of the biggest arguments against that being the case. Oh, it's just the inflation, the tariffs, and stuff like that. Well, it's not just that, because this is also increasing more. That they made a leap in a lot of the pricing, at least that we see here in America, which might not have a lot to do with Shibata directly, but rather a previous conversation, that really felt like they were testing the waters on what they can get away with. And I'm hoping that this new regime change with Shibata at the top might actually bring us some hope that there's going to be some love, be some passion, and be some heart that returns to the game, at least from Nintendo. And maybe we might see another console war that's worth fighting with the next generation between Switch 2 and the PlayStation platforms.
I think one of the big things to really take into account, you've got somebody who's been with the company since '84. He was around when Nintendo was going through one of its hardest times, where they were hurting financially, and Iwata had sacrificed his own pay to make sure that the employees at the company didn't feel like they were going to lose their jobs. So, having this person coming in who's been there, who had gone through all of that, I'm hoping that, like you guys have mentioned, that he does follow in Iwata's footsteps. But it's also interesting to note that both the CEO and the COO are leaving at the exact same time to be replaced by people who, one who has obvious deep roots with the company, but also connections with fans, like you had mentioned, Dex. But then you also have somebody who's been following the footsteps of someone who's iconic as Regifizame. And I'm not trying to compare these people coming in with those people of the past, but in a way, I'm trying to be as optimistic as possible by kind of not comparing, but bringing them up together in the same conversation, because it's no secret that I have not been very happy with Nintendo for the long time now. So much so that, I have yet to even pre-order the new Pokemon game, which is big for a channel that is Pokemon centric. I feel that the current structure of the company has been going in the wrong direction. So in good faith, I can't support that. I've always told our viewers, vote with your wallets, and this is me voting with my wallet. But with this new blood coming in, this new change, I think we may see a course correction that a lot of us have been hoping would happen. And so, but because it seems very strange that both the CEO and the COO have decided to leave at the same time. It's very bizarre, I think. I don't know if that's happened in the history of Nintendo per se, but generally speaking, when there's a leader change like this en masse, there's generally something underlying that's the cause of it. And so I'm kind of curious to know if this was something that was always planned, or if this is just happenstance, or if maybe what we're seeing and what they're not saying is that they've realized they have massively misstepped and they need to change things for the better.
Could this possibly be backlashes from the lawsuit situations going on with other up-and-coming monster catcher games? Not just like with the fan base being a backlash, but this might be a way of, to use a chess term, castling the proper people into different positions. I mean, that is a rhetorical question, because I don't really expect anyone to know. But at the same time, that's a big thing that big companies can do is, oh, well, that's a responsibility held by that position, blah, 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 blah. So if Nintendo's going to go full snake mode, that is something to do. But man, would it break my heart if Nintendo went full snake mode.
Full disclosure, I have applied to 3 positions within Nintendo. Draco, I don't even want to hear it. I already know what's going through your head.
I'm not saying nothing.
Yeah, I know. But what I've noticed while doing applications, interviews, and all that, is it seems like a lot I feel like the reason that their marketing cycle has not been the best as of late is because they don't have a marketing team. And by what I mean by that is 90% of the jobs that I've noticed on their website has been for marketing, sales, advertisement. That aspect of it is very jarring to me, because 90% of the time when you have leaks, it's not coming out of a developer end, it's coming out of a marketing side. So you now have the vice president of marketing in, the US moving up to a higher position, which leaves that position vacant. You have a marketing department that on the ground level seems to be completely restructuring and either they downsized or they are now, people have left and they're just redoing what they need to redo. So it doesn't seem like it has anything to do necessarily with the lawsuits for me. It seems like it's more of a culturally something was going on. And when you think about, one of the biggest complaints for Nintendo as of recently has been, we're not getting enough information. Big example, the Terra leak. Like all of the leaks that have been happening, all of the hacks that have been happening. They need to start fresh, and I think that's where we're going. But with Nintendo being a Japanese company, and with a lot of the way that culture sees things, the best way to start over is to start from where it was going well. Where it was going well was with Iwata. You have somebody that could be potentially seen by the company as the spiritual successor for Iwata, and I think that's more so where we're leaning towards. Not so much of a you did a bad thing, get out. I think it's we need to reset. So that's at least my hope, and that's at least where I think where it's coming from.
Yeah, literally like what I just said earlier, like all these new people coming in, like if they bring in like at least some more positive change for like whatever's coming next for Nintendo, then that's greatly like appreciated. And I mean, if it happens, I hope it doesn't take too long to happen and it happens more in the near future. And I may just be like a regular consumer. I am just going to buy anything that seems to be like of interest to me or of what I want from Nintendo. But like these practices, they gotta do a bit better, because I do agree with X. At one point it is starting to look more like what Sony and Xbox were trying to do at one point, and I don't know, hoping for the better.
The interesting thing that was pointed out earlier is how so many things seem to be going on all at once within Nintendo, and if that means anything more significant than just a coincidental fiscal cleaning sort of vibe, spring cleaning, so to speak, or if this is an actual like big regime change. Are we going to see more things, more marketing, more price negotiations, so to speak, like we're seeing with Nintendo Switch 2 going forward because of this, or is this in response to the backlash that the fan base gave, seeing some of these new marketing things and the way they felt sort of greedy and stuff like that? It's really hard to tell, and everything's a speculation, especially when you're dealing with such a big company and you have so many different minds and influences and different balances of influences taking place from top down.
I mean, at the end of the day, really when it comes down to is at the end of the day, we're going to have to wait and see. And unfortunately, because everything's going to happen at the end of the year into the new year, we most likely won't be seeing any results for at least, I'm going to say 3 to 6 months into the new year. But, you know, with that said, what are your thoughts on this new change of leaders at Nintendo? What are your concerns? Any ideas? Any thoughts on this? Let us know down below. And also, don't forget, we are on X. We're also on Blue Sky, Rumble. We are on YouTube, and we have a Discord. All links are down below in the description. And as always,
we'll see you in the next video.
video.